Have you ever wondered how Bola Ahmed Tinubu might have leveraged the criminal activity of Agberos to secure victory in the 2023 presidential election? Get ready for an expose that will leave you questioning the true cost of power. Tinubu, brilliant strategist, alliance builder, the man who stood up to military rule. That's the image you know, the official face, the statesman, the leader in the spotlight. But there's another side. A side born in the chaos of Lagos streets, where power is raw and survival is everything. Tinubu's rise is a double-edged story, one of official politics and one of street power. To understand him, you must step into the shadows. That's where his real power grew. Here the streets whisper his name. This is the genius of survival. Power here is built on loyalty, favors, and sometimes fear. While others played politics, Tinubu seized the city's lifeblood, the roads, the markets, the bus parks. He saw the hidden power in Lagos's informal world, especially the agberos, the feared motor park touts. By controlling them, he built a secret network, one that answered only to him, beyond the law. You can't tell Tinubu's story without this hidden side. He is both the polished leader and the streetwise kingmaker, fluent in the language of power, whether in a boardroom or at a bus stop. This mix of class and grit let him build a dynasty, one that still rules Lagos and now Nigeria. His methods? Some say they're like the mafia, reward for loyalty, punishment for betrayal. To his followers, he's a provider. To his enemies, a master of power games. Now as president, his Lagos playbook matters more than ever. The system he built, part official, part underground, could shape the future of 200 million people. The tricks that worked in Oshodi and Iyana Ipaja are now playing out across Nigeria. To understand Nigeria's future, you must first enter the world Tinubu built, starting with the Agbero connection. To understand Lagos is to understand its perpetual motion, a city defined by the ceaseless flow of people and commerce. At the heart of this chaotic ballet are the agberos, a term derived from Yoruba, that loosely translates to one who solicits passengers. In reality, they are far more than mere solicitors. They are the unofficial, self-appointed lords of the city's transport ecosystem. Operating from every bus stop, garage, and major intersection, these men, organized under the banner of the National Union of Road Transport Workers and its various offshoots, have established a shadow government that controls the lifeblood of Lagos. They are a ubiquitous presence, clad in union-branded vests, their authority asserted not by law but by muscle and menace. The Agbero system is built on a rigid hierarchical structure of extortion. At the lowest rung are the collectors who swarm commercial buses, minibuses, also called danfos, and tricycles or kiki napeps to demand a dizzying array of levies. A fee for loading passengers, a fee for dropping them off, a fee for the chairman's birthday, a fee for security, a fee for simply existing on their patch. Refusal to pay is not an option. Drivers who resist are met with swift and brutal consequences, ranging from verbal abuse and threats to vicious beatings and the vandalization of their vehicles, often with the silent complicity of nearby law enforcement. This network of control extends across the entire metropolis, with each major transport hub like Oshodi, Iyana Ipaja, or Obalende serving as a lucrative fiefdom for a local union chairman. These chairmen are powerful figures in their own right, commanding armies of enforcers and setting daily revenue targets that their foot soldiers must meet, come what may. They operate with near total impunity, their power entrenched through a combination of fear and political patronage. They are the gatekeepers of the streets, deciding who can work, where they can work, and how much they must pay for the privilege, turning public infrastructure into a private and immensely profitable enterprise. For the average Lagosian, the Agbero is a symbol of the city's dysfunction, a daily reminder of how order has been subverted by organized thuggery. They are a source of constant friction, their aggressive tactics contributing to traffic congestion, public brawls, and a general atmosphere of lawlessness. Yet despite widespread public condemnation, they have not only survived but thrived, becoming an indispensable part of the city's political machinery. Their evolution from simple park toots to powerful political enforcers is central to understanding the consolidation of power in modern Lagos, a transformation masterminded by Bola Tinubu. When Bola Tinubu became the governor of Lagos State in 1999, he inherited a city teeming with untapped, chaotic energy. He saw in the Agbero system not a problem to be solved, but a resource to be harnessed. Rather than dismantling this well-oiled machine of street-level extortion and intimidation, his administration chose to co-opt it. He formalized its leadership structure, empowering key figures and turning the National Union of Road Transport Workers into a de facto extension of his political organization. In exchange for their loyalty and their ability to mobilize thousands of foot soldiers at a moment's notice, the Agberos were granted unprecedented freedom to operate, effectively creating a state-sanctioned protection racket. This alliance proved devastatingly effective. During elections, the Agberos transformed from mere revenue collectors into a formidable political army. They were deployed to intimidate opposition voters, disrupt rival campaign rallies, and ensure a high turnout in strongholds loyal to Tinubu's party. Their knowledge of the city's intricate neighborhoods and their capacity for organized violence made them the perfect tool for grassroots political enforcement. They could enforce order or unleash chaos on command, giving Tinubu a vice-like grip on the city's political pulse. The promise of continued control over their lucrative transport routes was all the incentive they needed to deliver the vote, by whatever means necessary. Beyond electioneering, the Agbero network served as a powerful instrument for quelling dissent. Any burgeoning protest or civil disobedience could be swiftly neutralized by deploying union enforcers to the scene. These groups, more feared and often more effective than the police, could disperse crowds, intimidate organizers, and shut down parts of the city, all while maintaining a veneer of plausible deniability for the state government. This outsourcing of coercion allowed Tinubu's administration to maintain an iron fist over public expression, without always having to use official state security apparatus, thereby preserving a facade of democratic governance while suppressing any meaningful opposition from the ground up. The integration of the Agberos into the political fabric of Lagos was a masterstroke of realpolitik. It created a self-sustaining cycle of power. The unions generated vast, untraceable sums of money, a portion of which flowed upwards to fund political activities. In return, the political leadership provided the top brass of the unions with protection from the law, social legitimacy, and a seat at the table of power. This symbiotic relationship ensured that Tinubu's influence was not confined to the governor's office. It was felt in every bus, on every street corner, cementing his status as the undisputed Asiwaju, that is, leader of Lagos. For the millions of ordinary Lagosians who rely on public transport, the Agbero system is a daily ordeal of frustration and financial strain. The myriad illegal levies extorted from commercial drivers are not absorbed by the vehicle owners. They are immediately passed on to the passengers. This results in artificially inflated transport fares, making the simple act of commuting to work, school, or the market an expensive burden. A journey that should cost a nominal amount can see its price double or triple due to the cumulative taxes imposed by touts at various points along the route, eating into the meager incomes of the city's working class. The economic pressure is compounded by the psychological toll of daily encounters with aggression and intimidation. Commuters are frequently caught in the crossfire of disputes between drivers and Agberos, witnessing scenes of violence that have become disturbingly normalized. Drivers who argue over an unfair levy risk being dragged from their vehicles and beaten in broad daylight, while their passengers are forced to look on or flee. This climate of fear and unpredictability creates a tense and stressful environment, eroding public safety and fostering a sense of helplessness. The streets, which should be public assets, feel like territories governed by the whims of violent gangs. The impact extends beyond individual commuters to the broader urban economy. The inflated cost of transport directly affects the price of goods and services. Foodstuffs transported from farms to city markets become more expensive, as do manufactured goods move between warehouses and retailers. This Agbero tax functions as a hidden, regressive levy on the entire city, stifling small businesses and making the cost of living in Lagos one of the highest in the country. It is a parasitic system that drains economic vitality from the grassroots, redirecting wealth from productive activity into the pockets of a protected cartel. Despite the palpable public anger and the clear negative consequences, the system endures because it serves the powerful. It is a stark illustration of how the interests of the political elite can override the well-being of the general populace. The daily suffering of commuters is the price paid for the political control and financial kickbacks the system provides. For the ordinary citizen, there is no recourse. The police are often unwilling or unable to intervene. and the government that is supposed to protect them is the very architect of their daily torment, demonstrating a profound disconnect between the rulers and the ruled. The Agbero system is, at its core, a monumental cash-generating enterprise. Conservative estimates suggest that the network of touts across Lagos State collects tens of billions of naira annually, all of it in untraceable, off-the-books cash transactions. This river of money, extorted in small increments from hundreds of thousands of daily transport activities, flows upwards through the union's hierarchical structure. The street-level collectors pass their daily takings to unit heads, who in turn remit a share to zonal chairmen, with the largest portion ultimately reaching the top echelons of the union leadership. It is a highly organized and brutally efficient system of revenue extraction. This vast slush fund is unaccountable to any public authority. It is not taxed, it is not audited, and it does not appear in any official state revenue reports. Instead, it serves as a war chest for the political machine that shelters it. A significant portion of this money is used to finance the very activities that keep the political sponsors in power, funding election campaigns, buying votes, paying for political rallies, and rewarding loyalists. It provides a source of liquidity that is immediate, immense, and entirely deniable, giving its beneficiaries a massive and often insurmountable advantage in the political arena. The primary beneficiaries of this system are the top union leaders and their political godfathers. Figures like the former NURTW state chairman, who became notorious for his lavish lifestyle and immense wealth, exemplify how the system creates a class of street-level multimillionaires. These individuals enjoy a life of luxury and wield significant influence, acting as crucial intermediaries between the streets and the State House. Their personal enrichment is a direct consequence of the political protection they receive, and their continued loyalty is ensured by the uninterrupted flow of cash. This arrangement creates a powerful incentive for all parties to maintain the status quo, regardless of its devastating social cost. The diversion of these funds represents a colossal loss to the Lagos state government's official treasury. The money collected by Agbero should, by right, be part of the state's internally generated revenue, available for funding public services like schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. Instead, it fuels a parallel economy that undermines the formal state apparatus. While the government publicly celebrates its official revenue figures, it quietly permits a shadow financial system to thrive, one that enriches a select few at the expense of public development and reinforces the very power structure that allows this grand-scale larceny to continue unchecked. While the Agbero system secured Bola Tinubu's control at the street level, his ambitions were far grander. To build a lasting dynasty, he understood the need to control the narrative. Soon after consolidating his political grip on Lagos, a strategic expansion into the media landscape began. He acquired or established significant stakes in major media outlets, including a prominent television station, radio stations, and a widely read newspaper. This media empire became a crucial tool for shaping public perception, promoting his political agenda, and fiercely defending his image against criticism. His allies were lauded as heroes, his opponents were systematically discredited, and inconvenient truths were often buried under a deluge of favorable coverage. This control over information allowed him to project an image of a visionary modernizer, the architect of a so-called mega city, even as the foundations of his power rested on brute force street tactics. The media outlets under his influence rarely, if ever, ran in-depth investigative reports on the Agbero system, or the vast sums of money it generated. Instead, they focused on ribbon-cutting ceremonies, infrastructural projects, often built at inflated costs, and the political pronouncements of Tinubu and his chosen successors. This created a powerful echo chamber that insulated him from accountability and helped sell his brand of governance to a national audience, packaging the Lagos model as a success story worthy of emulation. Parallel to his media strategy, Tinubu perfected a system of political succession that ensured his continued dominance long after he left the governor's office in 2007. He became the ultimate godfather, single-handedly anointing his successors, from Babatunde Fashola to Akinwunmi Ambode and Babajide Sanwo-Olu. These hand-picked governors were expected to operate as loyal viceroys, managing the state on his behalf and protecting the political and economic structures he had built. Any deviation from this unwritten pact was met with severe consequences, as seen when Governor Ambode was unceremoniously denied a second term for perceived disloyalty, a stark warning to all within the camp. This political machinery, funded by the opaque revenues from the streets and protected by a compliant media, allowed him to expand his influence far beyond Lagos. He used the state's immense resources to build the Action Congress Party, which later evolved into the All Progressives Congress, the vehicle that would eventually carry him to the presidency. He became the national leader, a kingmaker who could install governors in other states and command the loyalty of federal legislators. The Lagos model, a fusion of street power, media control and political patronage, had become the blueprint for a national takeover. Beyond the mechanics of his political machine, the figure of Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself is shrouded in profound and persistent controversy. Questions about his very identity, his real name, his parentage, his age, and his educational background have trailed him for decades, creating a mystique that borders on the mythical. Early in his political career in 1999, he faced a petition alleging that he had lied under oath about attending elite institutions like the University of Chicago. The scandal was contained, but the questions never disappeared. By the time he ran for office again in 2003, his official forms listed his primary and secondary education as not applicable, a glaring admission that did little to quell speculation. This opacity extends to the source of his immense and undeniable wealth. Before entering politics, Tinubu worked as an accountant, but his fortune today is described as monstrous, with alleged interests spanning nearly every lucrative sector of the Nigerian economy, from real estate and media to finance and energy. Critics and investigators have long alleged that his wealth is inextricably linked to his two-decade-long control over Lagos State's finances, held through a complex web of proxy companies and trusted associates. The lack of transparency surrounding his assets has fueled accusations that he has treated the state's treasury as his personal fiefdom, blurring the lines between public service and private enrichment. These controversies over his identity and finances are not mere political smears, they strike at the heart of his legitimacy. In a nation where public trust in leaders is already perilously low, the inability to verify the basic biographical details of its president is deeply unsettling. The narrative he presents is that of a self-made man who succeeded through hard work and intellect, yet the documented evidence remains frustratingly thin. This has created a cult of personality built more on carefully managed public relations and a fiercely protected private life than on a verifiable public record, leaving many to wonder who the real Bola Tinubu is. The combination of a questionable past, staggering wealth, and control of a powerful media apparatus creates a formidable shield against scrutiny. Any attempt to investigate these controversies is often dismissed as a politically motivated attack by his media allies, while his immense resources allow him to outmaneuver legal and political challenges. This has allowed him to operate in a space beyond the normal rules of accountability, where power, not truth, becomes the ultimate arbiter of reality. As president, these long-standing questions now cast a shadow over the nation's highest office, defining his rule and the public's perception of it. Despite its formidable appearance, Bola Tinubu's political empire has not been without its internal challenges and open rebellions. The very system of patronage that demands absolute loyalty has, on several occasions, produced powerful figures who eventually chafed under his overbearing control. His hand-picked successors, once seen as loyal protégés, have become some of his most significant challengers. Babatunde Fashola, his immediate successor as Lagos governor, engaged in a quiet but intense power struggle with his former boss. Later, Governor Akinwunmi Ambody's more open defiance led to his political excommunication, a public and brutal demonstration of the price of disloyalty within the Tinubu camp. These internal rebellions are significant because they come from individuals who understand the inner workings of his political machine better than anyone. Men like Rauf Aregbesola, a longtime ally who became governor of Osun State with Tinubu's backing, later entered into a bitter and public feud with his godfather. These former insiders, once beneficiaries of the system, turned against it, exposing the tensions inherent in a structure built on the singular authority of one man. Their resistance, though often ultimately crushed, revealed that the empire's loyalty was transactional and that its foundations were not as unshakable as they appeared. Beyond elite politics, there has been significant resistance from the Nigerian public. The most potent example was the #EndSARS protest in October 2020, a youth-led movement against police brutality that quickly morphed into a broader expression of discontent with the ruling establishment. Although not directly targeted at Tinubu initially, the protests in Lagos became a referendum on the state's governance and the oppressive systems it fostered. The movement represented a direct challenge to the politics of coercion and impunity that the Agbero system embodies, with young Nigerians demanding accountability, transparency, and an end to state-sanctioned violence, whether from the police or from political thugs. The enduring public anger over the Agbero system itself represents a continuous, low-level form of resistance. The widespread condemnation in newspapers, on social media, and in everyday conversations shows a population that is acutely aware of the injustice but feels powerless to stop it. Movements like the #EndBadGovernance protests, which took place on Democracy Day, June 12, 2025, are a continuation of this public frustration. They signal that while Tinubu's machine may have mastered the art of political control, it has failed to win the genuine support of a populace that yearns for a more just and equitable society. These cracks, both internal and external, highlight the inherent fragility of a system built on dominance rather than consensus. As Bola Ahmed Tinubu serves as president of Nigeria, the methods he perfected in Lagos are no longer a local phenomenon. They cast a long shadow over the entire nation. His presidency is in many ways the nationalization of the Lagos model. The reliance on powerful unelected figures, the strategic formation of alliances with political strongmen like Nyesom Wike, and a governance style that often prioritizes loyalty over competence are all hallmarks of the political machinery he built over decades. The Agbero system, once confined to the transport routes of a single state, has become a metaphor for a style of rule that blurs the lines between formal governance and informal power structures. The ongoing impact of this legacy on Nigeria's democracy is profound and deeply concerning. A system that relies on street-level enforcers, media control, and opaque financing fundamentally undermines democratic principles of transparency, accountability, and the rule of law. It fosters a political culture where elections can be influenced by intimidation, where dissent is suppressed, and where public resources are susceptible to capture by a privileged few. The call from groups like the Conference of Nigeria Political Parties for Tinubu to ensure free and fair elections in 2027 reflects a deep-seated anxiety that the tactics of the past may define the nation's future. For Nigeria's future, the key question is whether this model of governance is sustainable on a national scale. A country as diverse and complex as Nigeria may prove far more difficult to control than a single state. The ethnic, religious, and regional fault lines are much deeper, and the challenges, from insecurity to economic hardship, are exponentially greater. A governance style built on patronage and coercion risks exacerbating these tensions rather than resolving them, potentially leading to greater instability. The president's declaration that he won't be distracted by naysayers can be interpreted as either resolute leadership or a dismissal of legitimate public grievances. Ultimately, Tinubu's rise and the Agbero connection serve as a powerful case study in the nature of power in modern Nigeria. It is a story of how political authority can be constructed from the ground up, using unconventional and often brutal methods to achieve and maintain control. His presidency will be the ultimate test of this model. The world now watches to see if the architect of the Lagos Empire can govern a complex republic, or if the very methods that brought him to power will prove to be the undoing of the nation's fragile democratic project. The streets that made him are now a reflection of the nation he leads.